Hello everyone. Today we are doing part 2 of my favorite thriller books of all time. I've got a list of my top 20 thriller books. If you haven't seen part 1, I will link that below for you so you can go and watch that. Now we are on to like the creme de la creme, okay? These are the books that I still think about. I still think about some of these characters. I think about the twists in these thrillers. I will mention that there's nothing on this list of books that are kind of dipping into the paranormal. I could do a whole separate one of those kinds of books. So there's no Simone St. James on here, for example, even though I love Simone St. James. These are just straight up thrillers. Let's dive into it. My top 10 in order. Okay, first up is Blood Wedding by Pierre Lemaitre. This is so twisted, so strange. This follows a woman named Sophie. She is a nanny of a young boy. I think he's like 3 or 4. And she is finding herself to be in a bit of a pickle where she keeps forgetting things. Like she forgets where she put her car, for example. She thinks she put it on one street and it's actually on like 2 streets over. She's forgetting all sorts of things. Now, I feel like you should go to the doctor if that happens to you. But no, she doesn't. She just goes on with her life and accepts this odd thing that's happening to her. One day, she falls asleep and wakes up to find this child that she takes care of dead. And it looks like she killed him. And so, of course, she does the smart thing that everyone should do, and she runs away from the scene. She changes her name, she changes her job, she changes her identity, and she wants to start over. And yet it's very clear very soon that her nightmare is not over, but has only just begun. The twist in this book had my jaw on the floor. I will not say any more, but if you like a good twist, you will love this book. You will adore this book. Enjoy. Next up is Rewind by Catherine Ryan Howard. This is meant to be a Psycho meets Fatal Attraction. So we're following 2 characters in this book. One person is a horrific, horrible human being named Andrew. He is the manager of, they're called cottages. They're called Shanamore cottages. It seems it's giving like motel vibes to me. He has set up all of the cottages with cameras and he just watches his guests. One day he has just one guest. He is watching her do her thing in her cottage, thinking that she has privacy, and he witnesses her being murdered. A killer comes in, a shadowy figure, kills the woman, and then turns to the camera and breaks the camera. And Andrew is going, I had no idea that anyone else knew that there were cameras. He, to his own belief, is the only person who knows about the cameras. And so he's wondering how that happened. What is he going to do with the body? Meanwhile, we also follow a woman named Natalie, who, as soon as she arrives at these cottages, realizes this is not good. This is not the vibe I'm going for. I just wish that I was home. She feels like something is very creepy, but she's got to stay because she needs to find out what she was looking for. She's there on a mission. This was such a fun read, an absolute page turner of a book, and extremely creepy. Oh, next up is like the queen of thrillers, in my opinion. This is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. We're still waiting for another book by her. Who knows if it's ever coming. We might just have to reread these good ones over and over again, and that's okay. In this book, we follow a woman named Camille, and she is going back to her hometown. This is a small hometown, and she's going back very reluctantly. There are girls in her hometown that are being murdered, and all of their teeth are being taken out. Very gruesome. Her boss sends her on this assignment, and she's extremely reluctant to go. She doesn't want to see all of the people that she grew up with. She certainly does not want to see her mom, who she has a very awkward relationship. It's not a good relationship. Her mom had like remarried a man, and she doesn't really like the guy. They had a daughter together, so it's her half sister. She doesn't really know that woman, that kid, I guess. She just doesn't want to go, but she does go, and she becomes completely entrenched in both the hometown and getting to know everyone again, and then also she becomes entrenched in this series of murders that are truly terrifying. I loved this. I love the character writing that Gillian Flynn does. Just because it's a thriller does not mean you have to focus on plot. You can have a great plot, but the characters are really what drive everything home with her books, and I just appreciated them all so very much in Sharp Objects. Oh my word, such a fun book. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is a very much inspired by Rosemary's Baby. If you've watched that movie, or I guess read that book, I have not read that book. It's very much inspired by that in all of the best ways, but he has his own twists on it, of course. This follows a woman named Jules. She's kind of homeless. I think she finds out that her partner was cheating on her, and she's got to leave this apartment that she lived with him in. And she sees an ad where they're looking for essentially apartment sitters. So you would go stay at the apartment, make sure all of the plants survive and that nobody breaks in. Now, the apartment is one of the fanciest apartments in New York City. It's called the Bartholomew. She's like, absolutely, this is perfect. You want me to stay there and then pay me? I'm in. So she goes to stay at this apartment, and the architecture is, it's a very old building. It's very like glamorous architecture, but also quite creepy. Like there are tapestries on the walls, and there are faces on the tapestries, and the eyes kind of watch you, like very creepy. Perfect ambience in this book. And there are also extreme rules in this book, like you can't have people over at all. You have to be back at the apartment by such and such time every single night. They're a bit extreme, but she is also in a place that she can't be too choosy. So she stays there. And then she meets other house sitters and starts to, you know, create friendships with them until one of them dies. And she is trying to find out what happened. Why is this place as creepy as it is? Why are all of the tenants not really allowed to talk to her? It is beyond bizarre. And yes, if you liked Rosemary's Baby, I just think that you will adore this book. Next up is a book that will honestly make you chuckle. This is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. It truly is a funny book and also scary at the exact same time. The Last Word follows a woman named Emma Carpenter. She's living in isolation in a home like on a lake with her golden retriever. She doesn't have contact with anybody else really. There is a neighbor across the lake that she kind of waves to. They have a bit of interaction, but not much. And then she has her landlord, who she does email back and forth with. She is trying to get away from her past. She's had some hard stuff happen in her past, and she needs some rest and relaxation and rejuvenation. She just goes here and stays and honestly reads a bunch of books on her Kindle. And one night she reads a horrible horror novel, and she leaves a pretty terrible review saying it was a really bad book. This guy didn't understand women. Nobody is like traveling, hiking in high heels when you're a woman. That's just not a thing. And the author gets back to her and is like, you know what? I worked really hard on this book. I want you to take down that review. And she refuses because she's like, it's an honest review. They get into it over the course of this night. She ends this fight. She thinks it's over, and then strange things start happening at the house that she's at. And she's like, is it the author? And she knows, like, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And yet things are happening to her. And it is told from two perspectives. The second perspective, I will say, is hilarious. But if you like books that have anything to do with like break-ins, this will make you so nervous, and it made me so nervous. I loved every second of this book. Next is a book that I just read. I finally read. They Never Learn, guys. This is by Lane Fargo. And this was just a pleasant surprise. I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't know I was going to like it to the degree that I really did. This follows a woman who is a professor at a university, and every year she selects a man who is a terrible human being. They are rapists, they are abusive to their girlfriends or what have you, and she picks a guy on campus and kills him. And that's just what she does every single year. And you follow her choosing her next victim and stalking him and trying to murder this person. You also follow another person on campus. You follow Carly, who is a student, and she's kind of nervous to be at this university, but also very happy to get away from her abusive father. So she's there, but just a little bit introverted, and she ends up rooming with a girl who's very extroverted. She's like in the drama department, and something horrible happens to her roommate one night when she goes to a house party. And Carly is completely enraged and upset about what happened to her roommate, and she wants to get revenge. And these two storylines interweave in the best of ways. Again, the twist in here had my my jaw dropped onto the floor. I just loved it. The academia vibes here is so perfect for this time of year. I loved every second of this. Moving on, we've got 3 or 4 more to go. We've got another Gillian Flynn. This is Gone Girl. I've read this twice now, and on the second reading, I realized this is my favorite Gillian Flynn. This follows a woman who goes missing. Her husband believes that she disappeared. He's not sure if she left of her own volition or what. He calls the police. That's the right thing to do. And of course, they start looking at him, and they come upon her diary, and the diary entries, you know, it's not looking good for the husband. And you start to get to know Amy through these diary entries, and you get to know the husband as he's being interviewed by the police, as, you know, the media come upon him and start trying to interview him as well. And you get to know this couple and how screwed up their relationship truly is. I loved every second of reading Gone Girl. It's the type of book that I will read again and again and again. Next is Beneath the Skin by Nikki French. Now, this is a husband and wife duo. They've written a whole mystery series as well that I highly recommend. Starts with Blue Monday, but this is a thriller and is just delightful. It's a perfect summer read because it takes place over a very hot summer. And we follow 3 women, Zoe, Jennifer, and Nadia. They have nothing in common at all. They're very, very different from one another, except for the fact that someone is stalking them. Someone is sending horrific, scary letters to them, promising to end their lives in very gruesome ways. And they're all trying to figure out why they're being stalked. They're working with the police, trying to survive, and not all of them do. And I loved this book. This is another one that I really want to reread at some point because it was just so much fun. Next is The Witch Elm. It's the only one that I don't have a physical copy of, which I must rectify, absolutely. The Witch Elm is by Tana French, who I adore. She also has a whole mystery series that it follows a murder squad in Ireland. Absolutely wonderful. I tore through all of those in 1 year last year and just loved that. But The Witch Elm is different in a lot of ways. It follows a man who is attacked one day. He goes out with his buddies for drinks, and on his way home, he is brutally attacked. He's left with, like, I think there were like head injuries. His body is broken. Like, the poor man went through it, and he goes home, and he really can't take care of himself very well at home. He is terrified because of everything he went through. And his uncle, I think his name was Uncle Toby, says, why don't you come and live with me? They recently found out that Uncle Toby has cancer, and it's not looking good for Uncle Toby. So this man decides, you know what? I went every summer to Uncle Toby's house. Like, I have fond memories with my cousins there. So you know what? I think I'll do that. I'm going to go there. Uncle Toby still has, like, all of the family around every Sunday. Like, it's a very close-knit family. So he's like, this seems like the safest, best way to recuperate from what I've gone through. And he goes, and soon after arriving, there is a skull discovered in Uncle Toby's backyard in the tree, a big tree in his backyard. And the story goes from there. Whose head is it? Whose head is it? Why is it there? How did it get there? Our main character gets involved in a big way, and I loved the character study in here. You really get to know our main character, Uncle Toby. The cousins in here. It is so much fun to read this book. Another book I'd love to reread. Like, these top 10, I could absolutely, especially the top 5, I could just reread them over and over again and just be thrilled, just be so happy. Okay, moving on to my last and favorite. It's honestly a toss-up between The Witch Elm and this book, but I adored this book so much. I will say it's like a literary thriller. So this is The First Day of Spring by Nancy Tucker. We're meeting Chrissy, who's a child. She's 8 years old, and you meet her after she's just killed a boy. Like, she is a murderer as a child. She kills him, and she's hoping she's not going to be caught. She doesn't fully understand what she's just done. She knew that she liked doing it, though. She enjoyed it. After this occurs, everyone in the neighborhood, it's a very close-knit neighborhood, are terrified. Mothers want to just keep their kids indoors. But she's got a group of friends that she's kind of a bit of a boss with. And she goes out and she's playing with them. They're all wondering what happened to this kid, and she's keeping this secret close to her. We also follow her years later when she has grown up and she is a mother herself. And she has this secret of her past, and she doesn't want to share it with anyone. She doesn't want anyone to know. She doesn't want her daughter taken away from her, and she is terrified that what she did as a child is going to come back and haunt her now. And this truly is a spotlight on motherhood. It follows Chrissy's relationship with her mother, which was extremely traumatic and strange. And then Chrissy's relationship with her daughter and her trying to be a good mother. And it explores friendship in a really beautiful way. And I just ended up caring so much about Chrissy, the murderous child, which I did not expect to feel that way. I ended up just genuinely caring about all of the characters in here in such a serious way. Yeah, the characterization in here is just beyond what I've seen in any thriller that I've read. The characterization is incredible. So if you like thrillers, but you also like it to be quite deep, and with a lot of depth. I highly recommend The First Day of Spring. This was her debut novel. She's written other things. I've never read anything else by her, but I'm so excited. I just want her to write more novels. I'll read anything that she writes because she is such a phenomenal writer. Oh my goodness, I'll stop talking. Those were all of the books. Those are all of my favorite thrillers of all time as of 2023. So let me know in the comments below, what did you think? Have you read these books? Are you wanting to read these books? What would your like top 5 be? I'd love to know. I'm sure everyone else would love to know as well. And I will talk with you guys soon. Bye.